If it's not recording. Anyway, we've got a big display going to be starting soon. We're starting off with some UAVs in round about 2 or 3 minutes time. In the centre of the airfield you can see the collection of vehicles. They'll be flying 3 UAVs, very interesting ones indeed, at round about 1:45. They should be finished around about 7 minutes past 2. Then we get the airfield ready for the flying display by the manned vehicles. And I'll go through the batting order of what we have for you this afternoon so you can make a note of the aircraft that you want to see. My name is Stratton Ritchie. Mark Brown has done all the hard work. I get the glory. I have no issues with that. We're kicking off at 2:15 with the Airbus, the 380, which will soon be towed out of its parking base. We then have the Airbus 350, then the Airbus A400, bringing us up to just past 2:30. F-18 Super Hornet at 2:45, Typhoon taking us up to 3 o'clock. Stardust as we get airborne, hold behind us, hold the hogs back. Then we have Gallipoli, Stardust comes back in from aerobatics. Next aerobatic aircraft will follow him, the Dart 450 at 25 minutes past 3. Then we have the Antonov, the 178, bringing us up round about to 20 to 4. The Dornier 328 bringing us up to 10 to 4. Then we have a slot for helicopters to depart, some VIP movements this afternoon. And then in this, the centenary year of Boeing, at just past 4 o'clock, we have the Boeing 787, followed by the 727, followed by the 737, followed by the P-8 Poseidon, bringing the show to a close at around about 25 minutes to 5. If that all changes, I will let you know. The weather, well, we've had interesting weather here, certainly on the Monday. Those of you here on Monday who swam home, well done. I hope you've dried out. We're tracking any of the storms that are around us. At the moment, Cheltenham is getting a bashing. Swindon is about to get a bashing. Salisbury, well, you've got away with it, but we've got a radar up here, so I'm tracking these storms. A lot of them, like yesterday, pass within about a mile, 2 miles of us. In the Farnborough Bowl, we have the hogs back out the back, and that just affects the local weather just a little bit. So we're tracking the weather. I'll try and give you a bit of warning of it. If anything's coming, it's going to be arriving from about, if you're looking out across the airfield, your 10 o'clock position. That's where the bad weather will be coming from. So you can keep an eye out that, and therefore that's going to be the show. Sponsored by Essentia. It's been a very successful show. Orders are coming in as we speak today, but up to the moment, orders here top $54 billion of orders already been done and announced here at Farnborough. A lot more traditionally today. If you look on the big screens around the site, or indeed if you're streaming on Farnborough International Limited website and various other sources, I am sure you'll see out on the centre of the field the vehicles moving out towards the runway for the first of our unmanned vehicles, which is an ornithopter, which looks just like a bird of prey. It flaps like a bird of prey. It flies like a bird of prey. And that's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a very new, it's actually really entertaining. I wish we all had big screens because we've got some very close views of it, courtesy of One Box Television. And the idea is you use it for bird scaring of an airfield. So we haven't sent the bird scaring out from TAG, who own the airfield. We're going to use the ornithopter to do it for it. There's Les Gardside Beatty on the right of the big screen, one of the Flying Control Committee. And we'll tell him to wear a tie tomorrow if he's going to be on camera. Actually, there's no point in that, does he? Doesn't know how to tie one. He uses clip-on ties, actually. So in a moment we're going to get the ornithopter to fly around. Then we've got the spotter and the RV, and I'll tell you a little bit about those as they fly. Movement at the far right of the airfield. We've got quite a few aircraft to pull out of the static, and indeed after they've flown they go back into the static, so it's quite an organisation and drama and ballet that's got to be done to move these aircraft in and out of the parking base. So that's the ornithopter now airborne, flapping around. That in front of us is an unmanned vehicle. It's not a bird, it looks very much like it. I think that is brilliant. I mean, it looks like enormous fun to fly and go and fly it around. And they're just going to fly it up and down the runway and see if it does get rid of all the crows and the bits and pieces, because that's what the idea is for. This is a Clear Flight Solutions flying display of Robird. It matches the flight style and profile of the Peregrine Falcon. Top speed 35 kilometers an hour. On its battery power, it gives about a 10-minute flight time, during which time it can be used to remove the birds. And I'm told that the effect is far beyond its actual area of flight, because birds all around the airfield will see this bird of prey flapping around and think, I can just keep clear of that, I don't want to be its lunch. And so that's the idea of it. I wish we could tell the crow that's sitting on the roof of the commentary box that it shouldn't be here now. Ladies and gentlemen, I have talkback in both of my ears. And the director of One Box Television has already started. He says, does that mean the birds are going to tweet about it? And the show's barely started. No. Well, I don't know. Do birds tweet? I leave that suspended in the air. 3IC was approved as the national qualified entry for the CAA in 2014. Training is web-based, all to do with the interface with this sort of aircraft, permit to work. It's certainly exciting, that crow there who is scuttling out of the way now. Various flight profiles can be programmed in for Robird. I don't know which one I'm looking. I'm looking at a real bird or the. I've got to keep an eye out on this. I think I'm just going to pay attention to the TV screens. It's probably easier to know which one's which. One of the other UAVs is being brought out to the south side of the runway here at Farnborough. We have 2406. 24 is going right to left. 06 goes the other way. Laffan's plane down on your left. Sometimes refer to that. Black sheds on the right. Or rather, it's only a black shed, a bit rusty, but it's out on the right now. It's where the old RAF mess used to be, and the old air traffic control, which I love so well, on the north side is now gone, of course. The beautiful new air traffic control, well, not that new. I suppose it's about 15, 20 years. I can't remember when TAG went over that, but those lovely hangars. We have a very tight restriction, obviously, with Farnborough, because we now have control of the airfield, Farnborough International, for the show, and we have to hand the airfield back to TAG at around about 1640, because they will have a lot of aircraft waiting to depart, and also a lot that will be airborne inbound into Farnborough. So Ornithopter is still flapping around. I mean, that's got to be quite complicated to make a UAV flap and fly, because it's, you know, man first tried that when they did first flying and it ended in disaster. Now to have got that system going, that must have taken quite a lot of work and ingenuity. I think it's quite fun. Take it to Trafalgar Square. We'll get rid of the pigeons. I wonder if they'd done that. That'd be a good place to do it, wouldn't it? Just notice now stopped flying, flapping and gliding as well. Is he coming into land now? I'm getting boss-eyed looking at my TV monitor, trying to look out the window to see where he is. He. Look, it's an aeroplane. I've just called it a he. Coming into land. Straight into the boot of the car there. So the Airbus eyes moving out onto the runway. That's the plural of bus. Did you not learn Latin? So moving out now, getting ready. This is the one from Southampton University, the spotter flight display, a twin-engined UAV. Just checking flight controls, that all the radios work. That's last minute adjustments to the wing, that's it. Smack it in there. Those of you on the big screens and streaming, you'll be able to see the starting process, which is quite interesting. Using some sort of food blender on the front to get the props going. Towing it out onto the runway. They don't need all this runway at Farnborough to get airborne. Let's have a look at what the weather's doing. No, it's still okay for us, that's fine. We have very complex airspace around this part of the United Kingdom. The departures, arrivals of Heathrow and Gatwick primarily go straight across the top of us. At the moment we've got, is it 3,200 feet we own, and then we can borrow up to 8,000 feet above us for aircraft like the Gripen, like Typhoon, like the Super Hornet, those sort of aircraft. And obviously London TMA, Terminal Control Area, could have that airspace back if they so required it. But a fantastic amount of cooperation going on between the different National Air Traffic Service, Traffic Control Service, the NATS, between them. I think Spotter may not be flying. I haven't heard why, but they're moving off the runway. I don't know whether we're needing a bit more time and airspace. Don't know. We don't have direct comms out there except for our ability to ring the flying control deputy who's out there. As we're talking about the airspace, we have what's called top hat. So we have 3,200 feet we can play with. Then we have a column above us up to, it's actually 8,000 feet, but we use 7,000 for vertical maneuvers. Now, if we do get gaps in the sky, hopefully the F-18 will be doing its square loop and bits and pieces like that. Certainly the air traffic controllers here have been working brilliantly with the complications of the air show needing the airspace for validation flights, and also the very busy operation here at TAG of arrivals and departures. So well done to them. So we're not going to see Spotter. It's apparently just gone a little unserviceable. Not certain about the RV4. That should be coming next, not due on for a little while, but it does rather depend if there's any spots of rain out there, because it's a very small, light UAV, and a small drop of water on the front of the Airbus 380 is really immaterial, but on this aeroplane it's like throwing a whole swimming pool at it. So I'm not certain what's going on out there. Indeed, it is being put together. I can see on our cameras. Are you winding up the propeller or just putting the wing on? We're watching on the cameras here. Now, this can be hand-launched, or it can be done by catapult. And we're just watching closely, and the chap who's going to launch it has just been pacing out a distance, a bit like a bowler pacing back from the wicket. I mean, he's got loads of distance to run. He doesn't have to pace it out. Oh, he's getting ready to go. Is the prop going? I hope so. We'll see in a moment. You know. Get the camera closer in. No, the prop is not going in. This is going to be hard work for the cameraman when it launches, tracking that close in. They can cope though, can't you guys? Yep. Bruce, well done, Bruce, keeping on to the camera there. And there it is airborne. This is the AR4 Tekova mini unmanned aerial system, providing advanced modular capability for, well, all sorts of things: intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, reconnaissance, all of those sort of bits and pieces. It is so small, really, that if it was in the combat area, you wouldn't see it, you wouldn't be able to shoot it down, because you wouldn't really know how far away it is, and anything wouldn't really take it out of the sky. So you can put this quite close into an area you want to have a good look around, and chances are that you're going to get your machine back. Its weight, well, about 2.5 bags of sugar, 5 kilos. Actually, no, bags of sugar are in kilos, aren't they? I was thinking 2.2 pounds to a bag of sugar. So 5 bags of sugar then. It can fly for around about 2 hours. Typical surveillance range, 20 kilometers. Landing, well, it can do an ordinary landing, or indeed it can fire its own parachute and come back in to land. It's certainly a very efficient and cheaper way of doing surveillance and traffic management you could have. You could go and fly it around the local area here. The camera shots can come back to our show control, and we can see how the traffic management is going on, which is working quite well at the moment. On your way out, listen to Airshow Radio. They will be able to give you the traffic and travel. Follow the signs. Don't be clever and think you know a better way out. We had someone do that yesterday, ended up in a cul-de-sac. Well, okay, their fault. Also can be used for damage assessment, building sites, places you can't really get access to, flooding, flood defences, all of those sort of things where you want to get eyes on the ground. You can have this sort of aircraft fly along the whole length of, say, you know, the Kennet and Avon Canal and film back to where there's flooding or flooding lightly. All that sort of thing is a very efficient and very quick way of sorting it out. The canal, I've just been asked where the Kennet and Avon Canal comes from. It's out to the west. I've fallen in it once. But we do have a canal at the end of the runway here that in 1968 flooded the far left-hand end of the runway, and there was a fish found on the runway afterwards. See, 1968, we have all these facts. Or is it the Avon and Kennet? Oh. Well, for a long time it disappeared completely from view from the commentary position. The only way of seeing roughly where it was watching is looking at the cameraman on my right to see where he's looking to give me a clue. But now back into the centre area. Shows you how very difficult it would be to spot and track, and ideal therefore for aerial surveillance. It's a sneaky beaky one, very quiet. That's the parachute coming out. So with it drifting down to the ground, thump. So now there will be, I believe, a quick runway inspection prior to the main display starting in, what do we got, about 12 minutes to go. And just to go through the batting order again, we're expecting at 2:15 the Airbus A380, followed by the 350, followed by the A400. Fantastic displays. We know the displays of old that Airbus traditionally do here at Farnborough. They are impressive displays by impressive aircraft. At 2:45 we go on to the FA-18, the Super Hornet. Following him at 2:55 we have Typhoon. Then we have Gripen just past 3 o'clock. Starduster Aerobatics, Dart 450 Aerobatics at 3. The Antonov 178 at 2. The Dornier 328 at around 2:45. I had to cough then. At 4:45. At 4 o'clock, then with Boeing celebrating their centenary on the 15th of this month. And they're here celebrating that. We have the 787, the 727, the 737 and the P8. Bring the show to an end at around about 5:25. 380 out on the runway. We've been having fun with the cameras, zooming in on various parts of the 380. Strangely enough, there's quite a lot of heat haze out there. It doesn't quite feel like it, I know, but we're a very long way away from the aircraft. When you zoom right in close, we're getting quite a lot of heat haze off the runway, and of course the engine. If you look at the big screens now, you can see the heat haze around the nose wheel. Reminds me, of course, that a lot of manufacturers go into the making and building of a lot of these aircraft. GKN, of course, here today. A lot of kit of theirs. Fibre metal laminates, formerly known as the glare, the fuselage panels on the 380 done by GKN. And they had a very special celebration this morning, only about an hour and 10 ago. The awards, the supplier awards for excellence, have been made, and representatives from each of those companies were at GKN, and news release is out, only where it was embargoed until an hour and 5 ago. And we have the list of the exhibitors, well, the suppliers who supplied GKN and got the award for excellence. So congratulations to them, and well done for GKN of having a sort of a thank you to their suppliers and bringing them along here to Farnborough to celebrate with you and with us. It's bits and pieces like that that make all the difference to Farnborough and to all the people that are involved in aerospace and aviation. Farnborough is the showcase, the world's largest temporary outdoor exhibition. It's a showcase for a sector worth £52 billion a year. The fifth largest industry in the United Kingdom. Directly employs 340,000 people. Indirectly, well, that would be a huge number. Indeed, last year, when I say last show, I mean 2014. When I say last year throughout the afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I do mean 2014. I just can't do the sums. 2 years ago, 2014, we saw a record £157 billion worth of orders being placed. Something more impressive about seeing these big aircraft at a show like this. You get much closer to them than you would if you went up to Heathrow and did your Reggie spotter, bit of Reggie spotter from the car park. It's different somehow when you see 380s come and go and 747s come and go. Here it feels so much closer, and certainly the takeoff is not going to be the sort of takeoff that you will see standard-wise out of London Heathrow. By the whole of the Airbus fleet, and indeed by the Boeing collection later on in the afternoon. We've got the airspace released to us a few moments earlier, so the A380 will be rolling a bit early, probably in about a minute's time. So stand 'em up, brakes release. This is MSN4, powered by 4 Engine Alliance GP7000s, each delivering around about 70,000 pounds of thrust as the Airbus A380 starts its takeoff run from the right. Is that not impressive for an aircraft like that? Also, Rolls-Royce, incidentally, can supply the Trent 900 engines. A 380 range of around about 8,500 nautical miles with a full passenger load. Earlier this week, it was confirmed that 319 net A380 orders from 18 customers are in existence. More than 190 A380s have been delivered to 13 operators since October 2007. iFlyA380.com. Operators are airlines such as Qatar Airways, Lufthansa, Air France, Emirates, Qantas, Singapore Airlines, Korean Airlines, China Southern Airlines, Malaysia, Thai, British Airways, Hurrah, Asian Airlines and Etihad. As for the route structure, there's around about 100 routes operated by the 380s by the 13 airlines. 230 airports can now accommodate the A380 around the world. To date, the whole fleet of those A380s in service have flown more than 2.9 million flight hours in more than 350,000 revenue flights. That's carrying over 130 million passengers. Mind-boggling numbers, really, and they've only just recently gone into service. It's very economic, it's very efficient, already allows airlines to boost profitability and stimulate demand and grow market share, even in the world's busiest slot-constrained airports. 380 is making good inroads. Low cost per seat on its efficient routes. Seating capacity ranges from 544 passengers in a comfortable 4-class configuration up to 853 in a single-class configuration. Coming past in his slow speed, high alpha, high angle of attack, which is the sort of thing you expect F-18 Hornets to do. Not colossal airliners like the 380, but he's drifting past. We're just checking on the flight radar tracker. If we can get it in time, ground speed of 114 knots, the ground speed of the 380 as he drifted past at 1,600 feet. .380 cabin flexibility allows airlines to differentiate their products. They can have their own layouts tailored for their market requirements. I mean, for example, some operators may choose to seat their first and business class passengers on the upper deck, providing a corporate jet-like environment, while configuring the 380 main deck for an all-economy layout. But it's entirely up to the person buying it, spending enough. Thanks to the fly-by-wire with envelope protection, the aircraft is as easy to handle as the much smaller A320. Shortly to get airborne will be the 350, waiting on the runway for the call from the A380. 350 rolling now. And there's the 350. Look at that departure, fantastic. Equally impressive by its larger sister that's now moving to position downwind, to call downwind to land. .350 XWB, extra wide body. That's nothing to do with me, that's the aircraft. Powered by two Rolls-Royce Trent XWB turbofans, each with 84,000 pounds of thrust at takeoff. Powered by the Rolls-Royce Trent, assembled up at Derby. Well, that's the home of aero engines of Rolls-Royce. So the Rolls-Royce, over 1,600 engines on order, worth something like 30 billion pounds on order. Actually, we were on the Rolls-Royce stand this morning, the colossal size of the engines on the 350. You can get the fuselage of Concorde inside the area of the engine as the 380 goes down to the left-hand side of the runway, turn round to come back to its parking base. Looking back at the 350 in a three-class configuration, the 350-900 will seat 325 passengers. A longer range version can be called the ultra long range, also being developed. That has a capability to fly up to 19 hours. And what does that mean? Well, that means Singapore Airlines have ordered this aircraft to restart the Los Angeles and New York direct service to Singapore. It's a longer fuselage version, the 350-1000. 1000 will typically seat 366 passengers, and indeed the A350-1000 has been assembled and is being fitted in Toulouse as we speak. Its maiden flight due before the end of this year. Orders for 802 orders already in for the 350 from 42 customers. That was the end of last month. And by the end of last month, Airbus had delivered a total of 27 of this type, the A350-900. And indeed, on the very first day of Farnborough, Sir Richard Branson was here and confirmed the order of the A350-1000 and ordered 8 of that aircraft to replace the fleet of 747-400s that Virgin Atlantic use. .350 extra wide fuselage, 226-inch internal fuselage width. 53% of the aircraft is composites. It's got common type rating with the A330 family. Therefore, that cuts down your training costs, conversion costs. There's a certain small little bit, obviously, of conversion costs, but if they're so common, it's so much easier to train guys to fly both aircraft or indeed move from one type to another. That is really dependent on the airline operator and the civil aviation in that country to which that airline operates. 350 coming round back towards us. Why haven't they got iFly A350 on .com on it? I asked you that yesterday, you still haven't come up with the answer. So now letting the 380 go back into its roost, the A400 on the north side, waiting his turn to display. Showing its maneuverability and flight safety, even with the gear extended. That's sort of an interesting type sort of go around, I suppose, if it was simulating that. To position out, just waiting obviously for the 380 to be put back in his parking base. A400 moving out onto the runway. As they do this, just remind you what we've got coming up later at 2:45, the FA-18 Super Hornet, 5-3 Typhoon, Gripen, Starduster, the Dart 450, Antonov 178, the Dornier 328, and the 787, 727, 73, and the P8. So once the runway is clear, I don't know whether the 400 will be going short. I think he is, yes, for the 350 to come in. And this will be another dramatic departure as the 350 drifts in over the black sheds. This is Atlas. Beautiful shape of the 350. It's going to be a very successful airliner, as airborne is the A400M Atlas. Again, the 350 will go to the far end of the runway, turn around, come back to its parking roost. So this is the A400M military airlifter from Airbus. Grew out of a program of the European Future Large Aircraft Requirement way back in 1992. Supported by nations of Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Turkey. Beginning of the creation of it was in Germany, January 05, and now very much into service. In fact, we saw it first here at Farnborough in 2010. By November last year, the order book of the A3400M stood in 174 aircraft for 8 countries. Largest customers are Germany and France, with orders of 53 and 50 aircraft respectively. Here in the UK, we have ordered 22 A400Ms, the first delivery taking place in November 14. It's estimated the export market over the next 25 years will account for something like 400 of these type of airlifters. It's very versatile, side stick controls, fly-by-wire, adapted to mission profiles. Test program had developed something like over 5,500 hours, going into civil and military certifications. You can put a lot in the back of the A400. Well, you got the Warrior, you can helicopters, Super Puma if you want, Cutler Apaches or Tiger gunships, anything like that. As a way of fully kitted troops, 116 fully kitted troops can be transported. They use sidewall or removable centerline seats. Stick it in the medevac roll, in the medical roll. The type can carry 66 stretchers with 25 medical staff. Gives it great flexibility. There you can see clearly the in-flight refueling probe. That's that scaffolding pole effectively ahead of the cockpit. Cruising anywhere between 300 and 350 miles an hour. Something in that sort of area. Flexible for airdrop operations. They can be conducted anywhere between 125 and 200 knots. Depends on really how quick you want to get away from the scene to which you're dropping supplies, or indeed the bit of kit you're doing. You open up the back door, you lob the parachute out the back, and the whole lot goes straight out the back with a whoomph. Watch out on the ground. Those propellers, very interested. 8-bladed composite curved propellers. Each adjacent propeller on each wing rotate in opposite directions. They produce down between the engines airflow. Majority of the benefits are reduced wing loading, more symmetrical airflow, that helps, greater lift distribution, and very much improved engine out handling. Now I approve of that. Anything makes it easier for the poor pilot's got to be good. 4% more lift by having that configuration of those propellers. Up to 90 degrees angular bank. He's not allowed to go to 91. Carbon ceramic brakes, and you're going to see those used. A very short landing run capable of this aircraft, because often going into rough, unprepared strips, you might not have the luxury of having a place you can turn round and go and have another takeoff run. So you land and you can reverse back up the strip, dump your troops or your kit, and then take off straight away, and the next one comes in to land. And you need to be rugged and tough on that. The gear actually could be inflated or deflated just to help unloading and loading of equipment on the rear ramp area. Like a Citroën DS. There you go. I think it's more reliable. But they're great cars, great fun cars. Can be operated with flight deck crew of 2. NVG capable, night vision goggle capability. Head-up display. They can also have forward-facing station that allows the tactical commander, mission commander to be accommodated if that's what your operation is. You'll hear and see the efficiency of those 8-bladed composite props going into full reverse thrust, the brakes going on just after landing. Indeed, at full reverse pitch, these props can reverse the aircraft up a 2-degree concrete slope at maximum takeoff weight. Atlas on the approach, just waiting for the 350 to move. We may even get a little extra fly pass. We've got plenty of time to play with, so we might get a flyby, which would be good news. Don't think we got the rear ramp open. Can have a little butchers on the cameras. See if the loadmaster's hanging out the back. He will be later when we reverse down the runway. So downwind to land. Those of you who have noticed, let me have a look at that weather on the, oh gosh, I've just rammed someone in the commentary box, nearly knocked myself out. Have a look at the weather radar there, Mark. I'm looking at that rain to the north of us. Because we've got something like 10 minutes before our next item to fly, the FA-18 Super Hornet. So that could be drifting to the north of us. Hope so. Hope the Super Hornet will get the full altitude as the A400 comes in. Atlas comes into land. Fairly short landing. We haven't yet seen the full display of the Hornet. On day one, we actually didn't see anything of the Hornet because the rain was so heavy. He was sit out on the runway and he just faded from view from us. It is an all-weather aircraft. It doesn't care. There's no point in flying if we can't see it. So that's a short landing, is it not? You can see those huge, great paddles of the props. And then start to reverse. Now, if you keep your nose on the center line of the runway when you're reversing, you're not going to go far wrong. But what is useful is if you open the tailgate, it's almost like they're listening to me, because down comes the tailgate. Oh, he's not going to reverse too much. I think probably we want to gain a bit of time. But when they reverse down the whole length of the runway, they've got the loadmaster at the back giving directions to the cockpit, à droite, and the other direction, à gauche. But actually, I think we're going to speed it up just to get a bit of time back to us. Going to show it's turning well within the width of the runway here. So you can see it doesn't need an awful lot to work with. All those spotty things on the side, the fluorescent spotty things, that's all for data gathering and all sorts of very, very clever things that is way beyond my intelligence to understand. But it's all for flight testing, cameras, stressing, and you're seeing all major points on the aeroplane that you want to monitor and get data back from. That's what we're looking at on the big screens, the old yellow spotty bits. All test aircraft carry bits and pieces like that. Also, right back to the very basic bits, having a bit of cotton on to see where airflow goes. An easy, simple device, a little bit of cotton, and you can see where it goes. Exactly the same, incidentally, if you go gliding. You have a little string, and or things like Robinson helicopters, you have a little string up the center of the cockpit. You can see exactly where the airflow is going. The simple works brilliantly. Now we're looking into that big chasm of a cargo hold on the big screens. Well, Super Hornet taxiing out. We are monitoring that rain. It's almost looking like it is actually going to go past us. We've got plenty of time. What we may do is hold the next item for a little while. In fact, we are ahead of time, so this might all work well. We've got to get Atlas off the runway. Indeed, talking about the rain, I'm joined in the commentary position by a very senior test pilot from Boeing, John Togas, and he's flies the F-18 Super Hornet, not today because he's sitting in here with us. John, you were here on the first day out on the runway, which turned into a total river. I mean, the rain that came down around you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't here, out on the runway was the Super Hornet, and it completely disappeared from view from us. And John, you were taxiing back in. That must have been interesting.
Well, as I sat there and looked at the end of the runway disappear, and the visibility started reducing gradually, it came to a point where I couldn't see one ship length in front of me. So we have in the cockpit a rain removal switch, which blasts a stream of bleed air onto our windscreen, which is meant for helping you during approach and landing. The visibility was so low, I had to use it just to taxi clear the runway.
I know, when you came down, it was the water spraying up around your wheels. We've got it all on camera. You can probably look back at the shot.
To see that.
Yeah, I'm sure the guys in One Box Television have got that. It was absolutely amazing. But taxiing cannot be easy in that sort of conditions. I mean, where they tell you to turn off, presumably. How did you find the place?
They told me turn right at Echo, and it was to the point where I almost had to slow down to a stop, pull out my iPad, get the Jepson out to figure out where I was. So I just creeped up, got hugged over to the right of the runway and found the Echo placard, and luckily I was able to see it and exit clear. But it was nerve-wracking.
Well, in 40 years of doing Farnborough Airshow, I've never seen weather quite like that. We had 21.2 millimetres of rain in under an hour, and bearing in mind the average for Farnborough is 45 millimetres for the month, we had the whole lot arrive at the same time. So it's really fantastic to have you up here. How many pilots you got here with the Hornet?
It's myself and Rick Sealong. He's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. However, he spent 14 years of his career as a Navy pilot. I'm a 20-year Navy career retired commander, and we're here to demonstrate the Super Hornet flying qualities, capabilities, and talk about it a little bit.
So, on carriers, you must have seen some bad weather. What about the sort of weather we had here? Have you seen that out on the carriers? That's got to be interesting, taxi. You haven't got a lot of space on a carrier, have you?
No, as a matter of fact, looks like we got Super Hornet taking the runway for lineup and wait right now. I have seen what we saw Monday on the carrier. That's the most memorable experience of my Navy career, and it was a very similar situation. I had to turn on rain removal. Do you know the status of Super Hornet? Is he lineup and wait, or are we?
Line up and wait. We're just confirming on the other phone.
Okay.
In fact, we'll be talking to air traffic to find out what altitude he's going to go for, but I don't think we get the full show looking above us, because you need to go up to about 7,000 feet, don't you, for a square loop?
We get cleared to 7,000. We actually need up to 4,500 feet.
Okay.
The low show, we can do it in 1,800 feet. And I'm looking out the window. I look over to the north. It may be tight over there, but right overhead, show center may be good.
Well, we're just getting calls from air traffic. This rain could start getting heavy. I'm just looking at the radar track. It's coming in towards us. If it does hit us, it's going to be for about 15 minutes or so. John, I mean, it must be enormous fun you're a pensioner, because you've retired.
Yes,
Never
sir.
thought I'd say that to a commander in the United States Navy. As a pensioner, what a cracking thing to retire to, being a test pilot on the Hornet.
I just hope I don't wake up from the dream.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
it really is.
To quote from a film,
Yeah.
You're living the dream, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yep. It's a pleasure to be able to take a skill set and apply it in my civilian life. And really, you can take a man away from the Navy, but you can never take the Navy away from a man.
That's true.
And so I still am supporting the warfighter by helping them improve the the upgrades in the Super Hornet, we can do software upgrades every 2 years, hardware upgrades every 4 years, and as required in between.
But you can talk the language
Right.
to the guys who are actually doing it all the time because you understand you've been there.
Absolutely.
And talk the language.
We still, it's really coming down now, we still keep in touch with all the fleet squadron mates that have moved up in the ranks, and they're still out there. And sometimes it's something simple like email, hey, Toonsis, I need you to look into, we want to look at conformal fuel tanks. How can we make that happen? So those ideas go right into a development group. I kind of think it like, in the James Bond movie, they had the guy that would make all the gadgets.
Yeah.
The bomb would come down and try them out. Kind of like that group. And then when a bright idea turns into a requirement, it gets funded, we'll go out and test it.
And then you go out and test it.
Right.
So, I mean, to work up for the show, which at the moment is not going to happen at the moment until this weather goes through, is it a standard show that you do everywhere around the world, and or do you tailor it for where you're going? Do you modify it? Because I remember Ricardo Travin over many years doing the square loop, and there's the loaded roll, which is high positive G into horrible negative G. I mean, that's got to be vile to do. Why would you? Well, okay. I was going to say, why would you want to do that? But I'm looking at the grin on your face.
Also, 5 weeks of flight training, and only 2 of those weeks involved training in the actual aircraft. The other 3 weeks were in the simulator.
Yes.
We're putting together the script based on a maneuver library of proven maneuvers that we rehearse over and over and over normally. Once we get them down normally, then we're going to start throwing in an engine failure. We're going to throw in a flight control failure, and any failure you can think of.
At any stage.
At any stage.
And you have to have your exits.
We have our exits. We have emergency procedures. So really, if we fly through a flock of geese or an interloper comes in, hits us from behind, we've got a recovery procedure, a pre-planned maneuver to safely escape and recover the aircraft.
And the key thing is you've got to practice all those maneuvers so they're actually totally routine to you. It's a familiar exit rather than an unfamiliar exit. This is why, in the airline business, I go into the simulator for 2 days every 6 months. And
sweat a lot?
The person in the back seat, my friend, fails all sorts of things on me. So therefore it becomes familiar routine, and therefore the panic and the surprise effect, the shock effect, isn't there. And that means that you've got more brain capacity to deal with what is familiar as an exit route. And you do exactly the same thing.
Exactly. And you're right, it can be physically violent at times. 7.5 Gs. Well, I weigh 80 kilograms, or about 180 pounds. And that weight when I do a knife edge passing and come out of that and do a 180, that's 7.5 Gs for 10 or 15 seconds. But the adrenaline is pumping so hard that usually you don't even notice it. Now, if you were to just sit there and relax and go to 4 Gs,
go to sleep.
You're going to go to sleep. And
yes.
When I'm flying with Ricardo, for example, and if I'm in his back seat and I'm not paying attention, I'm looking at an e-board card and he puts on 4.5 Gs. My neck starts going towards my lap, and it's kind of hard to come out of that. So it is a physical experience, and you have to get pumped up mentally and physically. And we do that. You'll see me an hour prior to the show. I'll be in the hangar by myself, walking around the floor, staring at the floor, calling my checkpoints.
Just going back through the whole thing.
Exactly.
Actually, that's very interesting because all the display pilots I know have a different time before they display of when they don't want anybody to disturb them.
That's right.
Some people, 10 minutes before, not a problem. Others, 2 hours before, not a problem. But you have your own routine to get yourself in the slot. Exactly the same as a commercial flight. You have a brief in. What you're going to do, the back times for when you're going to get airborne is exactly the same. But it's critical to do it, isn't it, for flight safety and everything?
Right. You have to mentally rehearse. We call it going in our bubble. Once you're in a bubble, phones go off, no distractions.
No.
And that's your time to do what you need.
Yes, you've zoned in for the whole operation, even before you see the aeroplane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now you just love it, don't you?
Like I said, I hope I don't wake up. It is. It's a fantastic job, if you want to call it work. And you were asking earlier about the maneuvers. These are all done to show capability. It's not really to try to recruit the 12-year-old, although it does a good job of that, but it's really to display hitting qualities. If you notice, we always fly with weapons.
Yes.
And that's a frequently asked question. Well, why don't you take the weapons off and you'll put on a lot hotter show?
Yeah, but you're showing what the airplane's capable of rather than making it as light to show it off.
What it's designed to do.
Yes.
And the other thing is, we were asked that this morning, as a matter of fact, the capability with weapons on and weapons off is equally as good. So we can put weapons on. We've put other weapons on. We've also flown it with no weapons at all. But your roll rates don't slow down a whole lot. Your pitch rates don't slow down a whole lot. And if you look at the Super Hornet, especially if you compare it to the old Legacy Hornet, there's a lot more tail volume back there. And these were all lessons learned in the design of this aircraft. This one's only a year old. To put more tail volume and more controllable surfaces that deflect higher so that you don't need vectored thrusts. That's more moving parts and more complex system. So that's what gives this aircraft more capability.
I mean, it's something like, is it 25% bigger than the old Hornet?
Yeah. 400 square feet up to 500 square feet. Your thrust went from 36,000 pounds up to over 40,000 pounds. And your payload, roughly 16 to 18,000 pounds. Our fuel capacity, 14,000 pounds in the single-seater. The low Legacy was 10,800 pounds or so. So now we're carrying the same amount of fuel that the old Legacy used 2 external tanks to carry. And more weapon stations. So bigger, faster, farther, more capable, and more survivable.
Yeah. Oh, I hope that this weather pulls through and we don't have to roll and once again lose the display. At the moment, we are talking to the Flying Control Committee of what's going on. The weather will be clearing, but at the moment, obviously, we're not flying. I will keep you up to date as and when. We've got an amphibian going down the runway. Oh, no, it's a car. So we'll let you know when we know what's happening, and then just stay under cover, I guess. Well, we've just been speaking to the Flying Control Committee. I understand it's going to be the flat show from the Hornet. Well, I'm not surprised, actually. I didn't think it was going to get the full show. Not entirely certain when he's going to go, but certainly the weather is now clearing through. So when the last bit of the rain has gone, well, unbelievable the weather that we've had here at Farnborough. We've had lightning before near the airfield, but never that close. Crikey, it's warmed up my cup of tea. And looking like a bit of power coming up. These engines, take it away. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, the two General Electric 414-400 engines producing over 40,000 pounds of thrust are at full power right now. There's rotation at about 110 knots, up to 45 degrees, over the line. Dirty roll. So lots of power, fully loaded. Rick's gonna come out to the right, do a weather deck check.
What does that mean?
So he's gonna touch the bottom of the cloud deck to see what kind of maneuvering space he has in the vertical. He's talking to Coach right now. He's gonna give him a pilot report.
So he might not stick to his low show, he might go medium, or will he have decided I'm doing low show, but I'm just checking the weather?
He will assess if he can get the low show maneuvers in. We do have several flat maneuvers. Looks like, I'm guessing he's up to 1,800 feet, so that's a minimum altitude for a low show. And so he's probably made the assessment. Coach has concurred. We're on for low show. So he's going to come around in for the first pass, a simulated strafe attack. We're going to show the nose pointing a capability of the Super Hornet. He's rolling in for about a 15-degree dive. Rolls out, adjusts his aim point. As he approaches show center from the left, you'll see him pull the stick all the way back. It's about 60 degrees of pitch, 45 degrees angle attack.
Wow, that is just awesome, isn't it? The maneuverability of that.
Oh, yeah.
So how much is done looking out the window and how much is done on flight instruments?
Well, we're continuously moving our scan inside out. Because the maneuvering space we have this year is so small, it's about maybe twice the length of my tee shot off of a par 5. We have to constantly cross-check what we're doing outside, but most of the maneuvers are executed on airspeed and altitude gates. Right there, 800 feet, 320 knots, stick back in the lap, 6G, pull the vertical, full forward stick. About -2 Gs on that push. Takes you up to 2,000 feet. Now he's going to reposition for the implement pitch back. What this is going to highlight is the ability to maneuver in all 3 axes at the same time. So see 3 seconds past show center, he lights the afterburns, you'll see the orange glow. And those come on real quick. There's no staging or waiting on them.
And you presumably can feel the kick in your back.
Oh yeah, yep. You can feel the thrust go from about 13,000 pounds each to up over 40,000 pounds. He accelerates from 105 to, he's probably going to hit about 350 for this corner. That's out to about a mile. By the way, all these reposition turns, they happen at about 1 to 1.1 miles from show center, just to keep it tight and show the aircraft maneuverability.
You can see the vaporization across the top of the wing if you're looking at the big screens close in on a lot of these corners.
Right. Very humid today, perfect conditions for that. Here comes a knife edge pass, good camera shot right here, showing all the missiles hanging out, ready to employ. Here comes the 7.5 G turn. Calves, thighs, butt, gut, you're squeezing all those muscles in your extremities, just so you can keep your vision. Keep the oxygenated blood in your eyeballs. Otherwise, you can start to see the sparklies like as you stand up right after a nap. And it's no fun. So the Thunder Pass, the whole point of that is we're going to come in fairly slow, fairly low, and let's say suddenly we see a threat at our 6 o'clock where we need to rapidly position the nose, employ our weapons, get a weapon system solution, employ the weapon, and then head on out. So the name of the game in the air-to-air combat today is you got to be quick and accurate.
Yep.
So no hanging around. Like they used to in the old days. pull for a shot, and look for a bug out. It's advisable if you're low and fast. So we'll position our mirrors, and the mirrors just go white, and you know you're vaping once your mirrors go white.
Because that always looks fantastic.
It does, yeah.
Not going to happen here at Farnborough. We're limiting you on speed, aren't you?
We have a 600 knot speed limit, or a 0.95 Mach speed limit. And plus, if you do hit that speed, it does take a while to turn around. So we try to, again, keep everything inside a mile.
So this is the loaded roll coming up, isn't it?
This is the loaded roll. If you got someone on your 6 and they're chasing you in their high-speed aircraft, they have to try to hang through that maneuver. Most likely they won't. They'll flush out in front of you, and then you've got a weapon solution. That's the point of that maneuver. And then it's a rapid reconfiguration to the landing configuration. Gear and flaps full. Unfortunately, we can't put the tail hook down. We could, but it wouldn't be very effective here at Farnborough.
Leave a gouge all the way down the runway, and there's no cables to take.
It'd be spectacular sparks down the runway. But it is interesting to watch them come aboard the carrier and stop. The stopping distance is roughly 600 feet. It takes about a second and a half to accelerate from his approach speed is going to be about 125 knots. The ship's usually giving us 25 knots of wind. Some of that's natural. So really it's a 100 knot closure on our floating runway. And then you get about a 4G tug in the forward direction. So you're really...
So you know that you've taken the cable.
Yep, there's no doubt that you've grabbed a wire. We do go to full military power. That's unreheat, non-afterburning thrust, in case the wire spits out or we miss the wire.
Yep.
And you get flying speed real quick after that. So he'll do a 750 feet per minute rated descent. You can see the big beefy landing gear there. This is about a 10 foot per second impact, which is a nominal carrier landing. We've done testing in this aircraft up to 21 to 22 feet per second. So that's like jumping off a two-story building.
That's going to be exciting.
Once the shock absorbers take most of the load.
Whoa.
So it looks violent there, but in the cockpit, it's kind of a non-event.
Oh, is it?
It is. It's not that hard.
Well, I mean, to be doing that sort of workout, dare I say, in the nicest possible sense of the word, you've got to be fit.
It certainly helps.
Yeah, you've got to work up to it. But I mean, Ricardo Trevin, it was a huge, tall man, and therefore more problems with heavy G and high G.
Well, the distance from the heart to the brain is about twice what it is in mine. He's 6'5" or so.
Yeah.
I was 5'9". I'm down to 5'8" after 20 years of flying ejection seat aircraft. Yeah, that's not a joke. So it does have a function of the distance from your heart to your brain.
Have you ever taken the exciting ride, leaving the aeroplane the quick way?
That's me knocking on wood.
Knocking on wood.
I have not. I was at the Martin Baker Shack. And they've had every
Shack is a chalet.
Chalet. Pardon moi. And they have documented all their ejections, over 7,000.
Yeah.
And the guy that was standing behind me, our safety videographer, Chris Field, he ejected out of a prowler successfully.
And now look to our right, starting his takeoff. This is the Typhoon, Eurofighter Typhoon. This is Typhoon P3E capability from BAE Systems. The Typhoon provides air forces with a highly capable, extremely agile, multi-role combat aircraft you're going to see displayed in front of us. Capable of being deployed to a spectrum of air operations, including air policing, peace support, and high-intensity conflict. Typhoon has been ordered by 8 nations so far, by the United Kingdom, by 8 nations already ordered Typhoon. UK, Germany, Italy, Spain, Austria, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Sultanate of Oman, and the State of Kuwait. Nat Makepeace flying the Typhoon. Flying today showing a heavily loaded Typhoon to demonstrate what it can carry, while obviously keeping the agility going. Those EJ200 engines, each producing 20,000 pounds of thrust. Integration of the Brimstone air-to-surface weapon, giving a precision effect with low collateral damage against fast-moving armoured vehicles. Alongside 6 Brimstones that are mounted, there are 3 mounted on each outboard pylon. And the other integrated areas, there's some ASRAMs. It's also got supersonic fuel tanks. Well, the fuel tanks themselves aren't supersonic, they only are when they're strapped to the aeroplane. Typhoon carrying the 4 Meteor beyond visual range air-to-air missiles. First time that, it's one of the first time the Typhoon aircraft has flown with this weapons fit in a display. Provides Air Force with a highly capable, extremely agile, multi-role combat aircraft. The Royal Air Force, of course, in the United Kingdom on standby 24/7 with Typhoon for interception of aircraft. They get scrambled quite often. Normally it's because someone has forgotten to change a radio frequency, etc. But they don't hang about. They get airborne quite quickly to go and have a look at what's coming in towards the UK. Various phases of Typhoon. As I say, this is the Phase 3 enhancements. Of course, the programme can be traced right back to December '83. When the air forces of France, Germany and Spain and Italy issued a requirement for a common combat aircraft. Much of the aircraft structure is carbon fibre composite. As I say, EJ200 engines, just over 20,000 pounds of thrust with the afterburner. In-flight refuelling capability. Aircraft available as a single-seat or 2-seat aircraft. Coming around for an inverted pass, I believe, remembering Nat's display. Well, it's an inverted push. That onto the 45-degree line. Coming around to do a 360 when he comes back towards us. Total armament, well, you've got 13 external hard points. 5 are located on the fuselage, 4 on each wing. Max level speed of Typhoon is Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. At a low level, the aircraft can accelerate from 200 knots to Mach 1 in a mere 30 seconds. Tight 360-degree high G turn, staying well inside the airfield boundary, coming round for a Canadian brake. Hands on throttle and stick system, wide head-up display. Normally by the Wednesday of Farnborough, I'm familiar with their display, but we scrubbed most of it on the Monday. I think coming round, configuring, slowing down, looking at the way the nose is rising for a slow speed pass. Configuring gear is extended for slow speed pass to pull up, to configure for downwind, I would think. That big air brake just behind the cockpit, the big speed brake deployed. Bit of drag against thrust, in come the afterburner. Wow, that looks dramatic against that sky. God, light them up, fella, light them up. Typhoon positioning to come into land. Has Gripen taxied? There is Gripen on the north side. Just having a look at how we're now dealing with time. We're not too far adrift. Typhoon back down. Gripen holding on the cross at the moment. He's still got a bit of taxiway to go. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I've just turned on the mic and someone said something incredibly funny in my ear. There's no way ever I could repeat it. I wish people wouldn't do that to me. The swines. I'll get back on track soon. Starduster, going to get airborne to hold, and then get a grip, Stratton. And then Gripen will be moving. Hey, that's a BBC link, isn't it? Get a grip, Stratton, and then Gripen moving out onto the runway. I think we're back on track now. These swines. Starduster starting the takeoff run. As I say, he's going to go over a left shoulder to hold before coming in for aerobatics. I don't think he's going to have a problem with the weather. Just having a wary eye on our tracking. You can see the thunderstorms around. That's a very pretty aircraft. It's not a Pitts, it's a Starduster. So Gripen hasn't started taxi. Incidentally, when you start your way home, follow the signs, follow the marshals, listen to Airshow Radio. They will give you the traffic and travel, the best way to get out. Of course, the show at the end of the week for the public days, we get more and more public display aircraft in, and it's certainly a lot busier at the weekends. Gripen now beginning to move out towards the runway. So Gripen out. In fact, if you're looking on the big screens, you can see that big wide angle head-up display. Looks like a great big green plate. Well, it's inside. The information displayed on that are beginning to come up, and here we go with Gripen. Saab in Sweden. Straight into a 45 climb, going up to around about between 200 to 300 knots, turning back, coming in 1,000 feet, accelerating to 300 knots. Saab has a long history in manufacturing successful military aircraft. This is a multi-role fighter designed to replace the outstanding Viggen that we used to have display at Farnborough along with Draken in the old days. I remember them well. It's frightening, isn't it? Gripen been a regular visitor to Farnborough, the first prototype arriving here in 1992. Barrel climbing turn up to between, well, starting at 500, going up to 1,000 feet, accelerating to 350 knots to turn back 270 degrees and descend back towards the display line. Gripen is a single or two-seater, all-weather, all-altitude interceptor attack and reconnaissance aircraft. In fact, much of the testing for Gripen, including that of the HUD, was undertaken by its older sister, the Viggen, which meant the program could be accelerated into production. A long, slow roll all the way down the runway. Positioning to a wing over. In many cases, the aircraft in its testing flights performed better than expected in both acceleration, speed, range and turning performance. It's designed to operate from short road sections. When I say short, around about 800 meters. That's the standard for the Swedish Air Force's wartime procedure. Getting a bit of vertical. Gripen has a built-in APU, makes the aircraft independent of heavy ground equipment. In fact, a fighter configured Gripen IG turn. A fighter configured Gripen can be turned around in less than 10 minutes by a crew of 1 technician and 5 semi-skilled or conscript flight line mechanics. In addition to the 204 Gripens taken by Sweden, the Gripen has also been sold to Brazil, the Czech Republic, Hungary, South Africa and Thailand. It's highly maneuverable, I think you can see that. There's a very low infrared and radar visual signatures rolling into the inverted. Back-to-back 360-degree rolls, around about 500 feet, 350 knots to position round. Gripen can carry a payload of 7.2 tons, unrefueled combat range of something like 700 nautical miles. A Sea Gripen is also under consideration. Hands-on throttle and stick, triplex fly-by-wire mini-stick HOTAS. I don't know whether you're going to see after landing the snow ploughing effect of the foreplanes. If they do, the snow ploughing effect is to reduce the landing run required. It's also, there's a speed brake on either side of the tail. Coming round, positioning for a Derry turn, so named after the late John Derry, who was a test pilot who flew many, many years and many times here at Farnborough. After this pass, I believe, positioning round to come in towards us for the Derry turn. It says here, landing gear provided by AP Precision Hydraulics with Goodyear wheels. The entire landing gear is designed for a high sink rate for landing. After all, if the distance available is short, the last thing you want to do is float down the runway and find yourself in the hedge at the other end. Pulling up and rolling. If he rolls under to change direction, it'll be Derry turn. He hasn't, but he may be going to do it in a moment. Pilots can, of course, chuck away in a manoeuvre that they don't particularly want to do at any stage, depending on cloud and visibility, so that's great. Gripen supersonic at all altitudes. Max operating altitude in excess of 50,000 feet. Stress to plus 9G. I'm not. Martin Baker supplied the seats. Again, drifting through the low speed, high angle of attack, high alpha pass, coming back to 100 knots indicated airspeed. Our flight tracker is down at the moment in the commentary box because that lightning strike. Engineers working all around me at the moment to fit that. I'll be able to tell you what the ground speed is, but actually there's not a lot of wind at the moment up there, so I reckon about 100 knots airspeed, 100 knots ground speed. Into a high alpha turn. It has an internally mounted 27mm Mauser automatic cannon in the port fuselage, sidewinder missiles at the wingtips. A lot of kit, a lot of variants can be carried on the Gripen. Those engines, General Electric Volvo RM12 turbofans, each sticking out just over 18,000 pounds of static thrust with the afterburner in. Taking advantage of the gap in the cloud. Negative G push, inverted push to roll, to pull up, high G pull, so from negative G to high G, loaded roll, climbing up to around about 1800 feet. As the speed washes off, drop the gear, and again, as I say, that landing can take quite a bit of punishment. The landing gear is designed to do that so you don't float, and I don't know, well, when I say float on this runway, you're probably going to. So we'll see what sort of shortish landing we're going to get. I must say, this show has been extremely challenging to a lot of the construction people and for Farnborough International Limited. An awful lot of extra work has to be done overnight because of the floodings that we've had, this extraordinary level of rain. And the constructors and the people who've been working behind the scenes overnight have done a magnificent job. Whole areas of the halls were flooded on Monday. They were all ready and open for business on Tuesday morning. A remarkable effort, something that we had never seen before. And still it shows how much the team can work behind the scenes to get it all up and about. Absolutely incredible sights. There were rivers running through the halls and all sorted out. Brilliant effort by a whole team of people. And here comes Gripen into land. See what I mean about no flare? Pop it on the ground. There's the four planes, snow ploughing effect. Also, there's no chance of aquaplaning if you put it down into the water that well. If you do a real skimmy landing, you can aquaplane quite well. And that's not something you really want to do. Now, outside, we must watch out for the Starduster to return. He will be coming in from our left-hand side, I believe, from high altitude. I haven't seen the display of the Starduster. And I don't know whether he's doing the bad weather or the good weather display. I think for the Stardust, this would be perfect for him. So I'm going to assume that he's going to do the good weather. Our spotter has spotted it. Our spotty spotter. Coming in from the left, it should be. So positioning to run in from the left. This is the very pretty Starduster. Smoke on. And here we are pulling straight up into the vertical for a hammerhead into a half vertical roll on the way down. And then positioning, I believe, for a loop. This is the Starduster, the SA300, or Starduster 2, developed in the 1960s by Louis Stolp. The idea was to provide a 100% pleasant and fun to fly aircraft. Well, that's what you got here. Today, more than 100 Stardusters are still flying around the world. Made of metal, construction generally requires 2 years to build by the amateur builder. Certainly one of the nicest looking biplanes to fly around. Today the plane is being presented. It was built actually incidentally in 1989. But it belongs to Jean-Marc Dorst, who is the Vice President of Trescal, the colours of which it is flying in today. Global player in calibration services, provide verification, repair and calibration of measurement instruments in physical, electrical and mechanical domains. Trescal also offers maintenance of avionic electronic test benches. And Jean-Marc is the boss, well, he's a vice president of Trescal, and therefore he gets to play on airplanes like this. Into the vertical. So the A-axis, as I say, left and right. The B-axis is towards and from you. Into a slow roll, into the inverted to pull. Accelerating downhill. So that looks like the beginning of a reverse half Cuban. A roll on the half diagonal, check inverted, bit of negative G, bit more negative G as you push. Blood running all the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. Trescal itself in partnership with operations of 21 different countries in Europe, North Africa, Asia, South America and the United States of America. Employing over 2,300 people worldwide. Main fuselage is made of aluminium tubing, coated canvas. Wings are made of wood. Coming up for a hammerhead, stall turn. Effectively, you go up until you run out of airspeed, and as you're going up, actually, the speed decreases. The torque of the propeller makes you try to yaw. You use the rudder until you get full rudder on. Then you put the other reversal rudder, rotate around the center cockpit, and descend again. That's a stall turn. That's how you easily do it. Push over the top as a bunt. A lot of negative and positive G going on. Stress to +6 and -6 G. Under the bonnet, 200 horsepower engine. Hartzell bladed propeller. Jean-Marc has taken this aircraft to shows such as, well, obviously Farnborough, but he's been to Paris, Berlin and Marrakesh. Coming around for a knife edge pass, you see a boot full of the right rudder, keeping the nose up. Going the other way, boot full of the other rudder, which must be the left to pull. Positioning now for downwind to land. a very pretty aircraft. As Mark, who's done all the hard work up in the commentary position, certainly in the last 20 minutes he's done some hard work reorganising what's going on around me. As just said, it's a very pretty aircraft to display, and it's great to have an aircraft like that here at Farnborough. A little bit of side slip. Airplane like that is great to do side slipping. Biplane side slipping, perfect. Really enjoy doing things like that. Next aircraft taxiing out. This is the Dart 450, moving out onto the threshold of the runway from Diamond Aircraft. Indeed, the reason it's called Dart is Diamond Aircraft Reconnaissance Trainer. It's very, very new. Somewhere in here, I had yesterday, and I don't today, the sequence that he's going to fly. This is called planning ahead. Hang on, have I just turned over 3 pages at the same time? Look at that, there it is. If all else fails, go back 1 page. That got Mark going for a moment. Rolling now. Again, he's going to have plenty of the airspace available. Quiet aircraft. Max continuous power of the engine, 400 horsepower, hence part of its naming. Actually, that doesn't make sense because max continuous power is 400 horsepower, takeoff power is 495, so they just split the difference, called it the 450. Oh, 447.5. I know, those who went to school did maths. Multi-role military trainer aircraft. Can be used for basic training for aerobatics, mission and reconnaissance training. It's got a good range, around about 1,500 nautical miles. Side stick control system, OTAS. Stress to +7 and -4G. That's in the aerobatic category. In the reconnaissance configuration, +5, -2.4, which is perfectly acceptable. 2 seats, and it says here in the notes from the company, optional ejector seats. I suppose you want the airplane back, I suppose. So down in to start his routine down on the 45, then going out for a 360 turn, 180 degree turn, only half the 360, get the full value, lost from view from the commentary position, so relying very much on one box television and the big screen, and they give me a monitor up here, which is very useful of them. Thank you, Ian. A horizontal 8 in front of us. First flight of this aircraft was in May 2016 in Austria. Extensive test program still going underway. So with what, 3-4 months to get ready to bring the aircraft to Farnborough, we require that each brand new type has done at least 50 hours flying before it can ever display at Farnborough, even as a brand new type. And that's actually quite a lot when you're doing development flying and test flying. Full FADEC control engine with mechanical emergency backup system. Pitch up into the 60 for, I think, a half roll on the way. Yes, he has. And then if you've done a half going up, just to make it neat, you do a half on the way down over that pitch up and pull back. Round for 180-degree turn to a 3/4 roll. Is it going to be a hesitation roll? I can't remember from yesterday. No, that looks like it was a neat, very neat. It was very neat aerobatics. This endurance is 8 hours. Takeoff distance doesn't need very much at all. Less than 600 meters, which is under 2,000 feet. Landing less than that, 400 meters required, which is around about 1,300 feet. There's a 3/4 roll. Various different configurations are looked at in all the testing. Adaptive mission equipment, intelligent flight management control systems also being appraised. Very successful company, Diamond Aircraft. A number of other aircraft they supply, and I think they might actually be coming down to talk to us later in the week about their other aircraft that they run and develop. This is to be certified to EASA standards. That's European standards. I don't know whether that matters now, having had a referendum, which I've been told not to even mention, so I won't. 180-degree turn, 2 underwing hard points. The avionics is EFIS, Electronic Flight Information System, EFIS. Is very, very new, as I say, but it does feature in the very latest Jane's All the World's Aircraft 2016-2017 production, which is just out, and we have a copy here, so thank you, Jane's. It's the Bible for aviation, and very useful it is to have the very latest up to date, and in fact the Diamond Dart 450 has found its way into Jane's, so it's right up to date. Now with the gear down and the flap being extended, try not to lose the sequence for tomorrow, Stratton. Just keeps people on their toes up here. Meanwhile, as he comes round on the airfield, there's been quite a bit of manoeuvring going on. The Antonov, the 178, has moved out. It's sitting just in front of the DC-10 on the north side, about our 1 o'clock position. That's where where the old original air traffic was. The Dornier 328 will come out from the south side. He's in his roost there. The 787, splendid in the ANA colours, is on the north side. The 727 equally out there. 73 will be tucked behind that, and then the P8 as we get a long flyby. The dirty configuration of the Diamond aircraft. Well, it's a credit to a lot of the backup of the systems that we have here, because that lightning strike has taken out an awful lot of equipment in the commentary position. A lot of stuff is still down and out, but Shohar, who are supplying the PA system, have flipped us straight away onto the backup system, and therefore there's hardly a break except for the surprise of that crack of the lightning around us. So Ross, thank you for flipping that across so quickly into our backup system. Never thought we'd have to use it. We're still running on half strength here of bits and pieces. Some of our monitors are down, but that's all coming back together in very quick time, so it's actually very, very gratifying to know we've got that back up. As we look out onto the runway as the Antonov 178 takes to the runway. Cameraman checking the lens not covered in rain. Just waiting until the runway is clear. Systems in the commentary position. There's already the new monitors and switchgear is in, well, just about to be switched on. As long as they're not allowed bang when they do it, we'll be happy. But quite remarkable the speed at which we're getting back into line here as the Antonov 178 takes to the air here at Farnborough for another tremendous display. In fact, the original Antonov 148 predecessor dates back to September 01, and development and forward planning and creation has gone on since then. I mean, if you look back at the 148, that typically seats something like 75 passengers, available in both short and long range versions. However, the type extremely versatile. Specialized variants of the airframe include VIP configurations. You can have maritime reconnaissance, medical evac, small parcel freighter, palletized cargo freighter. Then we went on to the Antonov, the 158, referred actually way back as the 148-200, but the 158. Stretch version for 99 passengers, range of around about 1,600 nautical miles. That had a cabin that had been extended, been stretched by 1.15 meters, and a bit more at the aft of the wing by about another half meter. And so that made it a lot more versatile, more passengers. In fact, the 158 produced solely in Kiev. The 168, previously called the Antonov Business Jet, essentially that was really a 148 fuselage with the rear doors deleted, with winglets installed as of the 158. Now this one is the very latest member of the family. This is the 178. Type announced in February 6 years ago, and this is the prototype airframe. Maiden flight took place in Kiev on the 7th of May last year. Antonov anticipate that the market for this type of aircraft totals round about 1,100. Now the 148 is a development of the 158, extended to replace the other Antonovs, the 26 and the 32, and while really a lot of the aircraft shares commonality with the 158, the differences really are the cargo section has been enlarged. They've actually put on an extra pair of main gears that have been incorporated on each side. That gives it a more, well, not lifting capability, that's in charge of the wing, but operation from rough strips, and also load bearing. Here he comes in his low speed pass. Types of cargo capable of being carried by the 176 include 3 Humvee-sized vehicles, or 72 troops, 68 paratroopers, or 40 stretchers. Range increased to just shy of 3,000 nautical miles. That's with a 5-ton cargo base. airframe life. Well, it really depends on what sort of operation you do with it. If you're rough with it, if you're military use, it's going to be less than it is in civil use. But around about 80,000 hours, that's about 30 years or 60,000 landings, that sort of thing. One of the design features of the aircraft is that an engine change can be completed in just 2 hours. Undercarriage designed for operation from unpaved landing strips. And titanium is extensively used in its construction. Dunlop supplied the actual tyres. Cockpit of two, featured 5-screen display. Cruising altitude of just over 38,000 feet. Well, I suppose cruise around about 445 knots, and the landing run, of which you will be seeing shortly, and this is a flyby because I haven't been paying attention, requires a landing run of just over 1,000 meters. Here, this looks like the landing approach. The runway now. This is the Dornier 328. Different to the Dornier 328 we had yesterday, and indeed the graphics on the side of the fuselage, when we get a closer look, or when I get a closer look, actually almost a bit like an X-ray, because its graphics are showing what's on the inside of the aircraft. I'll be interested to see how they've done that. We'll see it very shortly, because he's starting his takeoff run. Now, I say it's different to the one we had yesterday. The 328 we had yesterday was a pure jet aircraft, not one with propellers on the front of the jet engine. So this is airborne, and that's neat. You can see the sort of inside. Where's Flossie sitting? This is from Dornier, the 328. I'm very pleased to say that this regional aircraft has been dramatically updated and brought back into production by TR Jet, a brand new OEM based in Turkey. Available both as a turboprop and the jet. And last time we saw the 328 here at Farnborough was 12 years ago, 2004, when Fairchild Dornier displayed the jet-powered aircraft. Well, it's a completely different animal now. The very latest generation of avionics suites will be installed. Weather radar, TCAS, EGPWS, advanced wind shear detection system. Variants of this aircraft include a 32-seat commuter. You can have Medivac, VIP configuration, special mission, maritime patrol, or a dedicated cargo transporter. Cargo version will feature a large cargo door as an option. You can have an air-operable door, which is also available to support parachute dropping or ground resupply. TR Jet also announced that they have sealed a memorandum of understanding for its first 50 orders here at Farnborough. The turboprop itself will be re-engined shortly and feature new propellers, whilst the props have yet to be evaluated and chosen. The power plant will be the PW127. This is a two-spool engine, you knew that, two-stage centrifugal compressor, high engine rated, at 2,750 shaft horsepower. Reckon that the 328s will be certified and in service in the next, can't do the maths quickly, 3 to 4 years. First flight of the original Dornier 328 series was powered by the Pratt & Whitney engines. Took place in December 1991. Has superb performance. It's good passenger comfort and operational economics with reliability. Very good hot and high performance. Also useful for operating out of short strips. Again, it's a pretty looking aeroplane. Certainly agile and versatile. Looking at our weather tracker, which I'm sure is not actually correct because it says we've got a humongous thunderstorm over us at the moment, so I think it's still trying to catch up with what's going on outside the window as he turns downwind, calling downwind to land. Those of you who know about the lighting system here at Farnborough, you can tell without listening to the air traffic control when they call downwind to land, because the main runway lights go out at that precise moment, because we reconfigure for a different set of approach lights while we have the display. At Farnborough, the main touchdown point is quite a way in from the threshold, mainly because of the town, but for the show and the show only, we have a different landing point and we have a different set of lights on the approach and puppies and vases for the pilots to know where they are. So when they call downwind to land, the main runway lights go off and they're quickly reconfigured for the show only approach lights. It's also a good cue for me because I'm not actually listening to air traffic. Steep approach. Coming down the side of a mountain, steep, unprepared strips, short strips, difficult places to get into. London City, for example. Only needs about 1,000 meters to land. Well, that's short enough. Now just taking advantage to get one of our VIP departures. So 787 turning off the runway. The oil spill response 727 moving out to display. I tell you, the Dreamliner can cruise at about 0.85 Mach, similar to 747-400. If I didn't, I have now. Well, if you remember the noise footprint of the Dreamliner and then you've heard the noise footprint of the 727, you can see how much aviation and engine design has come on, because that 727, it's an old aeroplane, is considerably noisier than the modern 787. I should have pointed, we should have actually flown them in the other direction. Well, not the other direction, the other way round. Other direction could be exciting. This is the Oil Spill Response Limited, industry's leading oil spill response cooperative, provides preparedness, response and intervention services worldwide. Membership represents the majority of global oil production, comprising of 150 environmental response organizations from government, marine and energy related sectors. It operates from strategic locations in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Pacific and the Americas. OSLR is the industry leader in the field, having acquired a distinguished track record by attending more than 400 oil spill incidents during the last 30 years. And this is just one of the fleet of aircraft that they use. You'll see the booms extended at the rear, and indeed if the airfield is not wet enough already, they're going to make it a bit wetter. Looking at the wind, it should land on the airfield and not us. It's the largest international industry-funded cooperative, capability to respond to oil spills wherever they may occur in the world. Well, maybe he's not going to make us wetter. Certainly yesterday they dumped a load of water on us. This aircraft's worked with the Response Limited's work with the British aero engineer firm T2 Aviation, which is part of 2XL Aviation Group. They've modified, delivered two former FedEx 727s. This is central to the new dispersant fleet. Originally OSLR used to operate the 4-engine turboprop, the Herc, well known as a troop, medevac and cargo transport aircraft. However, we need nowadays to get aircraft there quicker, and this certainly can fly a lot quicker onto scene than the Herc positioning round to land. It's a success story itself, the 727. In 1962, when it came into production with Boeing, Boeing thought they might be lucky if they sell something like 250 of these aircraft. Well, they certainly did that, because as the last one was delivered in September 1984, that 250 hopeful guess had been exceeded. They'd sold and delivered 1,832 727s. Very efficient reverse buckets on the number 1 and 3 engine. Very successful. Quite a fast cruise speed also of the 727. It's one of the faster ones around, or it was. Let's have a look and see what we've got. We go to completely back to right up to date with the next aircraft from Boeing moving out onto the runway. Indeed, also Poseidon is out there by flight safety. Just waiting for the Dornier to move. So it's all running. Let's have a look at the time. We've gained time all along. So we're now just 1 minute behind, which is quite remarkable. Starting the takeoff run now. This is the 737 MAX. Distinctive winglets. There they are on the big screen. Looks like a boomerang. My boomerang won't come back. How about that for again a departure? Real fighter-like departure. You don't do that with Granny down the back with a gin and tonic in her hand. Mind your departure shouldn't have a gin and tonic in her hand. Your cabin crew should clear all that in. They're ticking off in the box how many times I use song titles. I've snuck some in that they haven't noticed because they're not old enough to know them. This 737 MAX making its international airshow debut. 56,000 pounds of thrust from the CFM engines. Leaps into the air. I say leaps into the air because it's CFM LEAP 1B engines. Indeed, they've got their own chalet here, and you've seen it. CFM LEAP engines offer 14% greater fuel efficiency than today than the 737 new generation. That distinctive winglet that we looked at actually gives a fuel efficiency improvement of 1.8%. And of course all these little percentages add up to the fuel efficiency and efficiency of the whole aircraft. A whole lot is cumulative. It's a lot quieter than the 727 that we've just had flying. European customers, AirCap, Avalon, Enter-Air, Icelandair, Monarch, Norwegian, Ryanair, SMBC, Aviation Capital, Sun Express, Travel Services, TUI and Turkish Airlines. Those are the customers in Europe. Safran Aircraft Engines, of course, supplying the CFM LEAP 1B engines. It's cumulative. GKN Aerospace, Advanced Technology Winglets, Goodrich Aerospace, Landing Gear, Thales Avionics, General Aerospace, the Fan Cowls, Airbus, Defence and Space CBT plant, the interiors can be completely redesigned with the Boeing Sky interior, bring a much more pleasing environment that passengers instantly see and feel and relax in. Taking its design concepts from that of the 787 cabin. LED lighting, colour LED lighting, brighter decal in the aeroplane. Bit of a wing rock, that's a good wing rock, we like that. As for the test flying, 4 test aircraft completed more than 300 combined flight hours. They've been the high altitude testing at La Paz in Bolivia. They've done the minimum control speeds, that's exciting, ground effect, nacelle cooling. 737-9 aircraft is in the final design stages, the final factory build and first flight scheduled for the first half of 2017. It's the Dash 9. Whole program, the 737 MAX, builds on the success of the next generation 737. '73 also positioning to land on 06. The P8 waiting patiently to move out. Which in itself is related very, very closely to the 737 because it is indeed a 737 variant. I like the Boeing colour scheme. I thought I'd share that with you. Moving out onto the runway now. This is the P8. And of course, just ordered this week at Farnborough, the United Kingdom has ordered 9 P8s. It's going to cost you, well, and me I suppose, £3 billion over the next decade or so, starting the takeoff run. See the humidity on the intakes of the engines, just a bit of vaporizing till he gets a bit of forward oomph through the engines. Just shows how much humidity there is out there. P-8 airframe combines the mid-size 737-800 fuselage with the longer wings and increased gross weight of the 737-900ER extended range. Get a look at the unique wing configuration of the P-8, powered by two CFM high bypass turbofans, each chucking out 27,000 pounds of thrust. First flight was in April 2009. Entered operational service with both the United States and the Indian Navies in 2013, now in full production rate. To date, Boeing has delivered 47 P-8As to the United States Navy, 8 of the international variants to India, and they're expecting to make delivery of its first aircraft to the Royal Australian Air Force by the end of this year. The aircraft has increased fuel capability over the commercial 737, giving an extended range and endurance. Also just completed air-to-air refueling certification behind the United States Air Force KC-135, further expanding its operational capability. Certainly long ferry flights or lurking on station for a long time can be achieved by that capability of in-flight refueling. The aircraft configured today with two, I'm delighted to say, inert AGM-84 Harpoon missiles under the wings. Actually, the P-8 has 4 underwing pylons capable of carrying a variety of weapons for its multi-role maritime and anti-surface warfare missions. You can see the aft internal weapons bay that's now open. 5 stations in the weapons bay, each designed to carry the Mark 54 torpedo. Also carry a variety of depth bombs or search and rescue kits depending on what the mission requirements are. It has exceptional handling capabilities, you've seen that easily enough. It can maneuver at low altitude and speeds as well as, well, exactly as what's being demonstrated here, I suppose, but it can also cruise at high altitudes and high air speeds, providing a broad area of search coverage and rapid deployment anywhere in the world, certainly with the in-flight refueling capability. Now halfway down, inside, 5 operator stations which control the fully integrated mission system and robust communications suite. Equipped with powerful maritime radar in the snout of the airplane, bottom of the aircraft, just forward of the wings, advanced electro-optic and infrared camera turret. I think they're going to or have extended that. These systems, combined with a host of electronic sensors, are integrated at each operator system to allow the crew to accomplish any maritime surveillance multitasking. Does that mean they're all girls? Because apparently us blokes can't multitask. Filthy looks up in the commentary position now. In the rear of the cabin are 6 sonar buoy launchers for storage of hundreds of sonar buoys. The launchers eject the sonar buoys through tubes in the aft body. Still the weapons bay open. No passenger windows, they've just been replaced by 2 observer windows, each quite large, 4 times that of the size of the 737 commercial window. Rows of antennas on the top, bottom sides of the fuselage. They support the various communications and data links of the P-8, gives the crew the ability to pass information around the globe instantly in support of whatever mission they happen to be on. Fuselage of the P-8 is manufactured by Spirit Aerosystems in Wichita, Kansas. Final assembly completed at Renton over on the west coast at Washington, alongside the 737 commercial production line. This in-line production capability allows Boeing to fully leverage the technological advances of the commercial product line and continuously improve the P-8 throughout its production cycle. In other words, efficiently. Closing the weapons bay, retracting the camera turret. At the end of this run, preparation for landing. I didn't say when he was going to close the weapons bay or attack the turret. That's why I kept the comma at the end of that sentence. That doesn't make sense either. But now they are configuring for the landing. This is from Boeing, the P-8A Poseidon. Fully integrated mission system, robust communication suite. And he too is going to use 06 for landing. Remember, when you leave, listen in to Airshow Radio. Follow the signs by the marshallers. Even if you think you know a shortcut, don't. It won't work. An awful lot of work has gone into the road systems outside, and if you just follow the way the marshals and the signs tell you, it will work an awful lot easier. If you're back here for the public days, get here early. Hopefully the weather will be a lot better. It can't be much worse. Actually, no, look, we've flown everything. Nothing was cancelled despite that horrendous rain. And what's more, we are going to finish, well, we could actually finish on time to the second. So quite a remarkable achievement, having had that weather. If you're not coming back this week, well, we'll see you in 2018, 16th to the 22nd of July. 16th to 22nd of July 2018, Farnborough International Show. As the P-8A touches down, and I'm going to claim the selection reverse thrust is the end of that show, so we landed dead on the second, because now we're just 15 seconds overrun as he turns off the runway. Cracking good show, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to Farnborough International, being part of history, Boeing's centenary. Drive home safely. My name is Stratton Ritchie. I've been aided brilliantly by Mark Brown, who's done all the work. I'm quite happy to take the applause. He is not allowed any of it. I wish you all a very good evening. Farnborough International Limited would like to also to thank Boeing at this precise moment, because we're moving on to the Boeing collection of aircraft. They are a platinum sponsor of the show. Very relevant, because the company celebrates its centenary on the 15th, later this week, here at Farnborough, birthplace of British aviation. Cody, of course, first flew from here, the old balloon sheds, in fact, still over there, the balloon shed, all here at Farnborough. And out onto the runway for his display is the 787-9, the Dreamliner. Is that impressive or what? Yes. This is the 787-9 Dreamliner, second variant of the Dreamliner family, entered service in June 2014. This is in the All Nippon Airways livery. All Nippon Airways, or ANA, was the launch customer of the 787 Dreamliner and is Boeing's largest 787 customer, with more than 80 orders for the 787 family. This is the first time the Japanese livered aeroplane has performed in a flying display, and it's great that it's at Farnborough on this significant week for Boeing. Indeed, A&E has decorated its livery with two distinct decals to commemorate this special occasion. One represents the sakura, or cherry blossom, while the other features Japanese majestic Mount Fuji. ANA is Japan's largest airline, operates the largest fleet of 787s. 47 so far they've had taken delivery. Flying the 787 is Val Cheney, chief pilot for the 777, and Randy Neville, former chief pilot for the 787. Actually, Randy was part of the crew of the original 787-8 on its maiden flight on the 15th of December 2009. It's a very graceful wing. Very pretty, look at that silhouette. So far, 425 787s have been delivered. 62 this year. The program currently has just over 1,100 total orders from 64 different customers. Now, the various different marks. 787-8, that carries 242 passengers, range of around about 7,300 nautical miles. 787-9, like what this is, 290 passengers in the two-class configuration, and that range a little bit further, 7,600 odd nautical miles. It's 20 feet longer than the original 787-8. Can take 23% more cargo than the 787-8, and the first deliveries were in June 2 years ago. Also about to come online is the 787-10. This will be the third member of the super efficient, passenger pleasing 787 family. A stretch of the -9, the -10 will retain 95% commonality by adding seats and cargo capability. -10, 330 passengers, 6,400 nautical miles, 38 feet longer than the original 787-8, 41% more cargo than the 787-8. So it really depends on what sort of operation the airline wants to do, to which version you order, or indeed have a collection of them, so you've got the versatility on the worldwide routes. -10 has already got 150 orders to date from 9 customers. Since the 787 entered service in 2011, it's amassed some impressive statistics. 500,000 flights, 1.2 billion revenue miles, 96 million passengers flown. It says to their destinations. Well, I don't know where else you have flown to, really. Powered by Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engines, hurrah! Wearing my Rolls-Royce badge on my jacket today. I swiped it off their stand this morning. Composite materials make up 50% of the primary structure of the 787. It's quiet, I think you'll agree. 787 in resplendent in ANA colours, positioning to land on 06. 727 has taxied the 737-8. Where's he? There he is on the north side. P8 beside him. He must be hiding over in his roost somewhere on the north side. I haven't seen him move out yet. He's not due on yet for another 15 minutes or so. So the 787 coming in the Dreamliner from the left. Dries out the runway a bit, doesn't it? It's about this time yesterday 2XL turned up with some chocolate cakes, but they haven't today. Phew.